Okay, after you theorize, after you come up with a thesis, you want to specify that thesis even more by categorizing. So you can't talk about everything. Your thesis, is generally a type of sort of broad mechanism. Um, and so your categorization move is basically saying, well, I have this great thesis or I have this argument I'm going to make. I can't write about everything. I can't talk about everything. So I'm going to narrow down my what I'm going to talk about to specific sort of aspects of the thesis. And these specific aspects of the thesis correspond to what you're using in the text. So it is very, very key in terms of analysis to always be cutting down what you're talking about. Um, in the final sort of thought, you can't really, talk about a whole book, uh, unless you have like 50 hours to talk about it, right, or 500 pages to write. You really have to narrow things down to chapters, to specific parts of chapters, to passages, to paragraphs, to sentences. And this is really where you're able to do analysis by condensing or selecting your field of analysis, uh, getting it down to the sort of the lowest common dynamic, what I like to call it, right? Getting the evidence down to the lowest common dynamic is so crucial for analysis. If you are not if you're not really working on a small playing field, then you're working on a big playing field. And when you work on a big playing field, oftentimes what you're rendering is coverage, information. You're trying to cover too much. When you try to cover too much, you spend way too much time explaining and describing things. So you want to always try to theorize and then categorize in a specific way. Okay, so in our class in IH, right, everyone's reading the same text, right? So you can have some assumptions, right, that people have read it, right? But that doesn't mean that you, as a critical speaker, as a dialogue, partner or participant, you still have to theorize and to categorize and say, let's talk about this problem, which has these dimensions, right? And let's talk about this problem with these dimensions within this part of the text, this specific part of the text. Those are the moves that you have to make. Again, it's selection, it's narrowing down, it's conceptualizing. And once you do that, then you can start to have some level of critical thinking.